Okay. Anywho, let's definitely get started. That's hilarious. Oh, there it is recording. This is a recorded video call. So you all know, Perez. All right. So everybody, thank you for being here and being here on time. Let's go ahead and begin with our WASC presentation presented today by Ms. Dumeyer, Miss Ashley, and Mr. Rubin as well. I used the last name and 2 first names, so there's that. Yeah, let's go ahead, take it away. And if your teammates are not here, please leads, call them, let them know that we're on. We need everybody on the call. If not, they're going to be responsible for watching the video recording. Okay, go ahead, take it away. Thank you.
Okay, taking it. So we're going to do just a quick review so people are remembering what WASC is. WASC is the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, and their purpose is to assure that operations are appropriate at schools, that the schools are trustworthy institutions. They want to validate our integrity, foster ongoing improvement, and provide valuable insight for all stakeholders. So we're taking a peek today at a couple different chapters. We're kind of hopping all over, but just going through each of our own pieces. So Mr. Rubin has chunks that pertain to his particular department. I have a couple pieces for my department, and Miss Colburn has chunks for her piece as well. So we'll be hopping in, talking about our self-study. Colburn.
Yep. And so Anne and Ruben will be going over organization, and then Anne will be going over curriculum, and I'll be going over assessment and accountability. Everything is going to relate back to our school-wide goals. So our 2 goals as identified in the WASC are to increase achievement in ELA and math and monitor and maintain school climate. So Ruben will be talking a lot about school safety, which has a lot to do with school climate. And then Anne with the curriculum intervention and me with the data are really going to hit that academic achievement in math and ELA. And we'll turn it over to Ruben.
Hi, everyone. Let me get myself situated here. There we go. Okay,
Where's
so
Ruben?
Can you hear me?
In Riverside. Say Riverside for us. We can hear you.
Are we taking guesses to where I'm at?
Only Perez. I'm assuming he's going to say Riverside.
Where's Perez at? No guesses?
I'm looking for your picture.
Nope, not San Diego, not Riverside, not LA. Austin, nope. NYC, nope. Houston, someone got Houston. I am in Houston, Texas.
What? All right.
Who's that, Laura? Yeah. Good job, Laura. You did live over there, huh?
Oh my gosh. I hope you guys are winning stuff.
Dumeyer's got the gifts for everybody who wins.
Yeah, you go see Dumeyer.
Awesome.
Totally made that up. Okay, so let me get started. So the facilities department's goal is the school leadership focuses on continuous school improvement by providing a safe, clean, and orderly place that nurtures learning and developing a culture that is characterized by trust, professionalism, equity, and high expectations for all students. We do this by routine inspections of buildings and the school grounds. For example, Isaac and I will have inspections of the buildings, the exterior of the buildings, making sure that everything is safe. Also the inside of the buildings, looking for anything that needs repair. It could be anything as far as from electrical to the lighting fixtures, the carpets, the paint jobs in the buildings, inside the buildings on the exterior, and the school grounds. We also do staff training, takes place yearly and bi-monthly. So at the beginning of every year, we all get together and then we will have a safety meeting discussing the different drills that take place, which is bi-monthly. We also have daily cleaning by our custodians and maintenance upkeep. So we have our day custodian, Ms. Carmen, and she maintains the restrooms. She takes care of the entire campus, really. Anything in regards to cleaning and disinfecting, she's taking care of it. And we also have our night custodian. So we have literally almost a 24-hour service for cleaning the grounds, the entire campus. And then we have Isaac, which is the maintenance assistant, and he is in charge of keeping all of our maintenance upkeep as far as AC filters, water fountains, anything that breaks, he'll be there to repair it. Furniture that we have on campus, I mean, you name it, we are attentive to anything that breaks down. Our infrastructure inspections are conducted yearly, semi-yearly, monthly. So we have our fire hydrants, fire extinguishers, fire sprinklers, emergency lights, our fire alarm system, all the smoke detectors and alarms, they're all tested by a third party, in which we hire somebody come out and they inspect all of our systems, make sure that we are certified, and then they give us a certification that we can then have as proof that all of our systems are up to date and adequate for safety of the campus. We also make sure that we have routine AC and water filter routine maintenance. So this gets swapped out routinely, monthly, and some are every 6 months. So the components that help sustain a safe learning environment, we have a total of 7 water fountains, 5 of which are touchless and have cool water, and 2 hand wash stations with multiple faucets. And we have air purifiers in every classroom and common areas. So this definitely helps with having clean environment and safe for all of our students and our teachers and staff to be able to teach, learn, conduct work as they go about their day. We also have color path of travel striping throughout the entire campus. So this allows for students to safely transition from classrooms to the NPR, to the office, to the sped wing. I mean, wherever they have to go, there's a safe path of travel marked for them. So there's ingress and egress for their path of travel, which keeps, you know, a lot of our safety path of travel under control. Lastly, according to the school climate survey, through a parent satisfaction survey, the liaison received feedback from parents and other members of the community in regards to our school climate. 62.4% of parents strongly agree that REACH provides a safe learning environment. 34.7% of parents agree that REACH provides a safe learning environment, which means we have a 97.1% of parents reporting that REACH has created a safe learning environment, which is the entire goal of the facilities department, is to make sure everyone feels safe, that everybody feels like they're in a place that is well kept, organized, and a good place to work. And for students, obviously, for them to be able to be only concerned about learning and not the aesthetics of the buildings or, you know, if things look ugly or not, you know, they're not worried about that. They want to come in, see the campus clean, see the landscaping cut, kept up with, no weeds, and all this creates a safe and conductive learning environment, which is our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Well done. Questions before we move on? Okay. So in the second half of section A, there's a piece about special populations, which addresses some of the students that we serve through the intervention department. One of the main chunks is addressing our multi-tiered system of supports, which we realize most teachers are pretty familiar with. We want to make sure all the staff is aware that there's this multiple tiered system in place for students to make sure that everyone's needs are met. So Tier 1 supports are provided to everyone. That's universal for all students on campus, regardless of need. Tier 2 supports are going to be targeted interventions for students with documented need. And then Tier 3 would be specifically individualized support. This is blurrier than I would like it to be. Can you guys see that okay, or is that bananas for you? Oh, thank you. Rock and roll. Okay, so for Tier 1, if we're looking at the triangle to your left, it's going to clearly list each of the universal supports, targeted interventions, and intensive interventions that we provide at Reach. Obviously, there's other pieces in there based on need or what we do for individualization for students, but this is a pretty clean cut of what's in place for everybody. And then to your right is the flow chart that kind of explains how we get to those tiers. So if we're looking at that top triangle to your right for Tier 1, every kid has access to those universal supports. They're getting differentiated instruction in the classroom. They're getting small group instruction from their teachers. They're getting differentiated independent work in the classroom. They have access to flexible seating as needed, daily fluency or fry word practice if they need practice on particular skills, and daily math facts practice. That's any kid. You don't need an SST to get those supports. That's everybody. Universal supports on the behavior support side would include the way that Richie's rules are kind of explicitly taught, where the kids are repeating it back. We have core values that are explicitly taught and repeated, and we work on that in leadership time. You have your community circles in the classroom. There's role modeling of expectations on campus, and then the use of super improver charts in the classroom as well. So that's something that everyone has access to. All students have those supports in place. Based on their performance with tier 1 interventions, we use that data on the right side to determine if more support is needed. So if you have a student who's getting those supports and they're not successful, we're tracking what that looks like, which would be when teachers are working on filling out either intervention logs or they're like calling our department saying, hey, can you help? Right? And so we're working on listing those options that they can put in for Tier 2 support. When you're getting Tier 2 support, you can have up to 2 Tier 2 supports in place before you need an SST. So any kid can have access to a peer or staff mentor, reflection in the den, restorative circles, self and match chart, work completion schedules, intervention groups in our small group instruction, Orton Gillingham instruction, after school tutoring, accommodations in the physical classroom, which would be some of like the fidgets, the wiggle seats, that kind of physical accommodation, sentence frames for independent work, or support as needed for daily practice. We put a little asterisk there because that's kind of based on the student's need. So we're not going to list all the options that are available. But if they're getting 2 Tier 2 interventions, that's where we're going to want to document and move up to upper level Tier 2 so that there's an SST in place to track that student's progress over time. Are they making growth with supports in place? Do we need to increase the frequency, duration, or intensity of those supports? And how effective are we? If we're not seeing growth with that progress monitoring in place and modifying the supports that are in place, we'll continue to kind of escalate through the tiers and add more supports. Once they've had that upper level Tier 2 support and we've documented over time, that's when they may be referred for an IEP, whether it's specialized academic, behavioral, social, emotional, or attendance supports. But for all of those, a lot of data is required to kind of prove that they need this support in place, that the other interventions were not successful for that student. And that's where they'll end up with a highly individualized student plan, which could include a Section 504 or an IEP. Questions? Okay. So I did want to share a little intervention data from last year. While we were on hybrid instruction, we still had a lot of growth for most grade levels using, this is specifically for math that you'll see on this page. So students who are receiving 3, so they're getting the two tier 2 supports plus 1 to get that SST. So if they're getting 3 supports, that's where I tracked their data for this particular report to make sure that anybody who's in an SST that's getting regular intervention support is being tracked so that we know if they're making growth. So in math specifically, our first graders started the year with SST kids only. Half of those kiddos were at a level 1, half of them were at level 2. If you're unfamiliar with what the levels look like, a level 1 would be someone who's performing below basic. So 2 levels below proficient, and level 2 would be basic, where they need support to be proficient or to be able to be successful on their own. At the end of the year, we had, is that 69%? It's so hard to see. Yep, 69% of the kiddos. Oh man.
It says 25 level 1, 62 level 2, and 13 level 3.
Thanks, Colburn. High five for the assist. Nicely done. So if you like, I can just have you look at the visuals to see there's growth. Yes, or would you like me to read more numbers, or have Ashley read you more numbers? Yes. To make it kind of clear what that looks like, kids in SST are having meetings with us usually twice a year with parents and teachers, and the intervention staff is directly delivering that support by either pushing into the classroom, whether they're close to grade level, or pulling them out if they're below grade level enough that they can't be provided that gap closing instruction in the classroom if it's far enough behind. But great. And also shout outs to 3rd grade. Nicely done. Continuing with our math growth, you'll see pretty great growth in 5th grade. 6th grade looks incredible. How many kids went from level 1 to level 2? Keeping in mind that a lot of kids did not come back at the end of the year to finish testing. We did have kids leave, or they were out of state when we were doing that STAR assessment. The next graph you'll see on the right for oral reading fluency, that would be every kid who got Orton Gillingham supports last school year. All of their oral reading fluency is graphed here. So anyone who started the year and ended the year receiving that support is included in this report. 2nd grade, we didn't see a lot of growth, but we know that a lot of those kiddos did end up getting referred for further support because of lack of growth. But in the other grade levels, we did see pretty significant growth, especially in 3rd grade and 4th grade. In 6th grade, we got close enough at the end of the year. Most of those kids are almost at the grade level benchmark for finishing the year. Not quite, but almost. Which means that if we're continuing to provide this support over time, we are seeing kids get close to grade level. For reference, if you have a student who's reading below grade level, as far as fluency, and they're receiving support, a good goal to set would be 70 words correct per minute, because that's where they're going to be able to comprehend what they're reading. If they're below 70 words correct per minute, that's going to be a big red flag, especially at the upper grades, because they're not understanding what they read if they're reading slower than that. So if you're doing dibbles at the beginning of the year, or you're working with a kid in after school and they're performing lower than that, that would be a time to ask for some support to make sure that they can catch up and understand what they're reading. On to curriculum. Any questions about intervention before we jump further into the presentation? No? Excellent. All right, so quickly we're going to outline what kind of curriculum and what particular curriculum is being used at REACH, and then we'll talk a little bit about our findings in that particular field. So for English language arts, we started implementing Pearson reading programs through Reading Street with Scott Forsman from our first year in 2012. We adopted their 2013 Common Core implementation when it was brand new. It was very effective. We had great results with them. So when they transitioned to Savas, changed name, upgraded everything to represent a new tradition of innovation, include more technology. Some of the stories are a little more culturally responsive. And they have a little bit more current research-based instruction strategies as opposed to from 9-10 years ago. We did follow them through and continue to see pretty great results with Pearson Savas. For math, we're currently using Dimensions Singapore Math. We've used a variety of different Singapore Math programs in the past, but Dimensions does have pretty cool ways to introduce new concepts with hands-on activities and presenting definitions prior to explaining the concepts. It engages the students through use of manipulatives, which as a school, we do work with Kathleen Hull-Poor separately to look at that build, draw, write that I'm sure most of you have heard us kind of repeat many times over the years, but that the manipulatives are super important for getting that concept of value in a tactile way ingrained in the students' minds as they move into abstract mathematical algorithms. For writing, we use Step Up to Writing, which is compatible with any Common Core curriculum or any core curriculum for ELA. It's like a supplemental writing component and supports writing instruction across any content area based on their graphic organizers. They use multisensory, explicit, and systematic approaches to teaching writing. One of the nice things is that when we had a trainer come out a couple years ago through Step Up to Writing, she has followed us out of her work with Step Up to Writing into her own private consultation practice and works with us directly on our own writing goals as a school. So that's been beneficial. We've seen pretty good growth working with her. In science, we're currently working with Amplify, integrating hands-on activities and literacy-rich activities with interactive digital tools. And the goal is for kids to learn how to write and perform science the same way that a professional would do, which is pretty exciting. Now, the social studies is going to be a growth area when we come back to that. They have student-friendly periodicals and an online learning platform that does align with standards. And we'll put a pin in that and come back. All right, so we did include evidence for curriculum as far as what our findings are. So when we talk about what is REACH doing, yes, we're aligned with Common Core Math. Yes, we're aligned with Common Core ELA and literacy. We provided samples of lesson plans to show examples of rigorous instruction and then independent student presentations and how they bring all the content areas together to be proficient and excellent in a number of areas at once. So if you had access to this, they are live links. You're welcome. If you'd like us to click some, hit us up in the chat. We'll give you a moment. Same goes below for the findings as far as equity and access. So for the second chunk of the curriculum chapter, which is long, there's a whole piece about making sure students have access to participating in real world problem solving, as well as the multi-tiered system of supports and equitable access to curriculum. And so there's a chunk there about what a Section 504 plan is and how that ensures access to curriculum for students with disabilities who don't qualify for an IEP. But it also addresses how MTSS allows every kid at REACH to have access to curriculum commensurate with peers regardless of need. So we did include all of those flowcharts and templates for the WASC committee to review. And I see a request to take a peek at the project-based rubric. If we could click on that to take a peek. This is directly from our curriculum. And so in each ELA unit, there's an end of the week project that culminates at the end of the unit. So there's a 6-week unit. And each week the kids are working on or have access to work on these projects so that at the end of the 6 weeks, they have a culminating project. And there's specific curriculum-based rubric for that so that we can measure their performance. Sorry. Rebel rousers outside. It's only mildly distracting. I could read it to you, or you're free to read it. It's probably better if you do it. If they could stop banging the wall, that'd be really cool. This was for 3rd grade particularly, so it probably looks familiar. Sorry, Kirkland. I figured you were right in the middle, so I pulled one from, I think it was Unit 2. Excellent. Anyone else? Cool. Okay. Strengths. Excellent. Our ELA curriculum integrates a wide variety of scaffolds to provide equitable access and support for all learners. Over time, we've noticed that our outcomes have consistently been positive with Savas Pearson, and so we will continue working with them as far as I know, and that is a strength at this time. Another strength is that the intervention programs have improved outcomes for our struggling students even during COVID. We have data that represents the amount of growth that you guys were, well, I say to my team directly, you guys were doing, but that the team was able to produce by working with kids directly and maintaining that support throughout distance learning, hybrid instruction, and then in our return to school. All grade level teams are aligned in writing instruction and employ consistently objective use of the rubrics. That was one of our focuses last year working with Ms. Freeman, was making sure that everybody was grading the same way on the rubric, because that can be a challenge. And at this time, we're seeing that as a strength based on reading through everybody's writing and comparing kids who have the same score from different classes within the grade level to see that they're equitable in their grading practices, specifically for writing. And teachers consistently implement WAM, writing about math, on Wednesdays from grades 2 to 6. First grade, are you guys? I didn't see WAM when I went through plans. Yeah? Okay. Students are engaged in small group problem solving using various strategies with opportunities to express solutions verbally and exposure to ideas from peers. Type in, I see fingers going here. Excellent, good. Make a note. Oh, look at that, school-wide WAM. Thank you, teachers. Let's update. Whoop, whoop. Well, that's really a strength. Prizes to you guys. Okay.
We got to make sure we tell the WASC committee that when they visit.
Yeah, like, hey, school-wide, they're rocking it. Excellent. Areas of growth. Number 1 is finding a social studies curriculum that reflects the diversity of reach student population. At this time, we are looking at 2 curriculum that are a little more culturally responsive, inquiry-based and digital, like online curriculum. So those should be shared shortly for teachers and staff to review so that you can have some insight and a little bit of say into like what you think will be beneficial for the kids, especially with feedback from this year's program. Working on consistent, more frequent implementation of that project-based learning related to solving real-world problems, hopefully being able to bring back more Wacky Wednesdays and integrate more projects as we get back into the flow of being on campus full-time. Because I know I see some heads nodding from old school reachers who know we were in there doing projects all the time, and that's kind of peeled back, and we want to hit the ground running, get those projects back in place full-time at all the grade levels. We want to increase the consistency of grade levels implementing the project-based assessments in place of the curriculum-based weekly tests on alternating weeks. That was just starting to get rolling before COVID, and then it was like, COVID, quick, go online. So we want to try and get back to that piece where they're not just doing those written assessments every week, because we saw a lot of benefit there, especially for kids who are non-traditional learners. And then working with teams to review student work together to better align on reteaching strategies so that if you went from class to class, that model of reteaching and the skill focus would be closer aligned from class to class, and just that planning for future lessons so that if you're doing formative assessments, we're seeing team-wide. And I know you guys were working really hard on that. And so just making sure the student work is a big piece of that. Colburn.
All right. Saving the best for last. Just kidding. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, Anne. You guys have got a lot of information right now. So wait for a little bit more. I'll try to talk quick though. So the next section we looked at was assessment and accountability, which was really easy for me to write because we do a lot with data talks and data analysis and reteaching and all those things. So they really want to make sure that we collect, analyze, and share data. which we do. So these are our findings. One is that teacher, admin, and staff engaged in targeted data analysis. Teachers, interventionists, Perez, y'all know that we do very often data analysis where we're looking at the assessments we're giving and we're analyzing them and we're coming up with next steps. So we have STAR, REN, and DIBBLES, which are norm reference, which means we not only know how our kids are doing, just how many questions they got right, but we know how they're doing compared to their peers across the state or across the country. And then we also have our curriculum assessments, exit tickets, formative assessments throughout the lesson. So Reach does a really good job of collecting data. WASC also really wants to know that we're communicating these things regularly to students, parents, and other stakeholder groups. And we do this as well, like through meetings, through our conferences, through like what we send them with the report cards, goal setting meetings, conversations with students. So we do that really well as well. Not only the data that we have as teachers, but we share that with the stakeholders as well. And then lastly, WASC likes to look at if we use the data to target resources. So for example, we did Read 180 this year because we saw in our data that we needed to target our upper grade students who are not showing growth in reading, or the OG implementation to help our students who are struggling with phonics. So all of this was based on data, and a lot of the things we do in the higher decision making, I know like SPED, intervention, we all make decisions based on data. And they also wanted to know that we're monitoring and modifying our instruction based on data. So we're not just looking at it and then like moving on, but we're actually doing things so that data impacts our instruction. So we definitely do that with our data loops, our reteaching, STAR REN analysis. This data forms like our targeted next steps, reteaching, small groups, learning academy. And one thing that's great about Reach is that our schedule includes blocks of time built in to do these things. I've worked at schools where it wasn't built in and you were trying to find times in your schedule to fit in that differentiated targeted instruction. But our schedule explicitly calls out the time that we do that. So it's definitely like a strength of Reach. And then another strength, another thing we found is like data talks and conferences. So y'all are having data talks with your students. I know like the upper grades, you guys did like report card talks. I know some of you do STAR data talks, things like that. So we're able to have those talks with students and help them create next steps maybe on their own or to reflect on their data. So in terms of strengths for our data analysis, we have a variety of assessments that help us identify our learner needs. So y'all know teachers and staff who do it, but those of you who might be newer to those assessments, we have DIBBLES, which is a reading test, STAR REN, which is reading and math. And then their teachers give the curriculum embedded common assessments. And then at the end of the lesson, teachers are giving exit tickets, doing checks for understanding throughout the lesson. And then we monitor student progress towards mastery through our data cycles and really analyzing the data, see who needs what and grouping them together. Again, our schedule allows time for this and that these conversations happen collaboratively. So these conversations aren't happening isolated with the teacher in their classroom figuring it out, but they happen in teams. So they're able to make those connections across classrooms and really share best practices and things. In terms of our growth with data, is we can improve on disaggregating that data for like special or focus populations in order to close the achievement deficit we see. So when we look at school-wide data, we see that certain groups might be performing at a deficit when compared to other groups. So we'll look at like race, language proficiency, socioeconomic status. And we do that on a school level, and we can benefit from doing that on a classroom level more often. We also know we can grow in like a program to house all the data. Like I know that when we're doing the data talks, teachers are going back and forth between various assessments to get a full picture of their student. So we can come up with a program to better house all that data to make teachers' lives easier and to get a full picture of the student. And then we could also grow on those data and goal setting conversations. I know each teacher does it in their own way. And I think Reach as a school can like formalize that. So I'm trying to go fast because y'all have been listening to people talk forever. So maybe I should slow down to make sense. So we can formalize that and like highlight best practices and provide like tools and resources to ensure that like all data talks are happening regularly in all the classrooms. So I went really fast. Are there any questions about data? I know teachers, interventionists, y'all are pretty familiar with our data processes and how they help us achieve greater gains with our students. Perez, I can't. All right, then in that case, we're going to go to the end. We're going to launch a poll just like last time. And we're really asking whether you strongly agree, whether you're neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree, if the following things we covered today contribute to successful student outcomes. So do our safeties and facilities contribute to successful student outcomes, the intervention support, the adopted curriculum, and the data analysis. So I'm going to launch the poll. There. Can someone give me a thumbs up if they see it? You'll see it, right? Thanks, Rodriguez. I see you, Mr. Gallegos. We're at about 60% participation. You'll see the results when we have 100%. We're about 64. %. Waiting for about 8 more people or computers or groups of people. All right, we're at 91%, so I think I'm just gonna call it. Wait, 93? Is there anyone who's still? Oh, I see Brooke. Brooke, I see you. All right, Brooke said timeout. Is she my last person? Are we good? Not good. About 10 seconds, I'm gonna call it. All right, I'm just gonna close it. It'll be okay. All right, y'all should see the results pop up. There. All right, so thank you for that feedback. And Ruben, do you have anything in clothing? Closing? Closing?
I do have my clothes on. Thank you, everyone.
Definitely not what I was asking.
Again, it's being recorded.
All right, so guys, we're gonna do great in our full visit. And okay, bye. Let us know in the chat if you have any questions.
Okay, great. So thank you, all 3 presenters for today. Please let us know if you guys have any questions. We are definitely feeling pretty good about our WASC visit, and we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes down to what we're doing school-wide, what our goals are and how we're meeting those goals. So we appreciate you guys showing up with your screens open, and we will see you guys again next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Have a beautiful day today, okay? See you guys around. Bye-bye.